Welcome to Streaming News Network by Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A healthcare company founder has been convicted in what federal prosecutors are calling one of the largest Medicare fraud schemes in Florida history. 42-year-old Brett Blackman of Johnson County, Kansas, was found guilty in a massive healthcare fraud operation that authorities say stole more than $1 billion from taxpayers through fraudulent Medicare claims. Federal investigators say the scheme operated from at least 2015 through 2020 in South Florida, including Miami-Dade County, as well as parts of Kansas and Arizona. Prosecutors say Blackman and his associates targeted hundreds of thousands of Medicare beneficiaries, many of them elderly, by pushing medically unnecessary orthotic braces, prescription creams, and other medical products. According to the Justice Department, the operation used telemarketing campaigns and online advertising promising free or low-cost medical equipment. Patient information was allegedly used to create fake doctor's orders, often without real medical evaluations or even direct contact between patients and physicians. Authorities also say the conspiracy involved kickbacks and sham contracts disguised as marketing or administrative services. Court records show federal healthcare programs were billed nearly $2 billion, with more than $639 million paid out on fraudulent claims. Blackman now faces up to 30 years in federal prison on healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and related convictions. His co-conspirator, Gary Cox, was previously sentenced to 15 years behind bars. This is Streaming News Network. A sharply divided vote in the House of Representatives is drawing attention during National Police Week, as lawmakers debated a Republican-backed resolution supporting law enforcement officers nationwide. The measure, introduced by Iowa Congressman Zach Nunn, praised what it called the extraordinary sacrifice made by police officers and criticized efforts to defund police departments, arguing such policies threaten public safety. The resolution passed with unanimous Republican support, but Democrats were split. Only 29 Democrats voted in favor, while 173 voted against it alongside House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. 3 Democrats voted present. Congressman Nunn said he hoped the resolution would receive broad bipartisan support, calling respect for law enforcement a critical issue. He also pointed to recent federal crime statistics, saying violent crime and murder rates have declined significantly in recent years. However, some Democrats reportedly objected to language in the measure targeting progressive activists and sanctuary city policies, saying the wording was politically charged. The debate comes as a new Federal Bureau of Investigation report shows assaults against law enforcement officers reached a 10-year high last year, although the number of officers killed in the line of duty saw a slight decline compared to the previous year. National Police Week honors fallen officers and recognizes the service and sacrifice of law enforcement personnel across the country. This is Streaming News Network. The United States Supreme Court delivered 2 unanimous rulings Thursday that could have major impacts on the transportation, logistics, and employment industries nationwide. In one decision, the High Court ruled that freight brokers can face state-level negligent hiring lawsuits tied to trucking accidents, rejecting arguments that federal transportation law shields brokers from liability. The case involved truck driver Sean Montgomery, who was injured in a crash involving another commercial driver during a shipment coordinated by logistics company C.H. Robinson Worldwide. Montgomery argued the company failed to properly vet the carrier involved in the accident. Lower courts had dismissed the case, citing federal protections under the Federal Aviation Administration Authorization Act. But in a unanimous opinion written by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, the Supreme Court ruled that a safety exception in the law allows states to pursue negligent hiring claims. Industry groups warned the ruling could increase lawsuits and insurance costs for freight brokers and logistics companies, while supporters say it strengthens accountability and roadway safety. In a second unanimous ruling, the court sided with hotel operators in a workplace discrimination case involving former Chateau Marmont employee Adrian Jules. The justices ruled that federal courts retain authority to confirm or overturn arbitration decisions after initially pausing lawsuits for arbitration proceedings under federal law. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote the opinion, saying courts that send disputes to arbitration still maintain jurisdiction over the outcome. Legal experts say the rulings provide new clarity on arbitration authority and freight industry liability, with potentially far-reaching consequences for businesses across the country. This is Streaming News Network. A neighborhood dispute in a small North Carolina town has turned into an unusual legal battle involving hundreds of vultures. Residents in Hillsborough say a local couple's habit of feeding the large birds has created a growing nuisance throughout the community. Ken and Linda Ostrand, longtime wildlife enthusiasts, admit they have cared for the vultures for years and say the birds are misunderstood scavengers that help clean the environment. But neighbors tell a very different story. According to a legal complaint filed by the town of Hillsborough, the Ostrands allegedly violated town ordinances by leaving food scraps outdoors to attract wildlife. Officials say complaints began pouring in around May of 2024, with residents claiming the vultures damaged rooftops with their talons, covered sidewalks and driveways in droppings, and scattered leftover meat and trash into neighboring yards. One neighbor told town commissioners the birds became so overwhelming that dead vultures were later found on his property after an apparent disease outbreak. Court filings include photographs showing dozens of vultures gathered on the couple's roof. Officials also allege Ken Ostrand was recently seen placing food outside, causing the birds to swarm the property within minutes. The Ostrands say they have largely stopped feeding the birds, except for two injured vultures they've nicknamed Chester and Morticia. Linda Ostrand, who previously operated a wildlife rehabilitation center, defended the birds, calling them nature's garbage cleaners. The town is now asking a judge to order the couple to stop attracting the vultures altogether. This is Streaming News Network. Former National Football League punter David Lee, a key member of the Baltimore Colts Super Bowl championship team, has died at the age of 82. Lee spent all 13 seasons of his professional football career with the Baltimore Colts from 1966 through 1978. Known for his powerful leg and consistency, he led the National Football League in punting average twice, first as a rookie in 1966 and again in 1969. Over 184 career games, Lee averaged more than 40 yards per punt and recorded a career-long 76-yard kick in 1971. Before his professional career, Lee was a standout multisport athlete at Minden High School in Louisiana and later attended Louisiana Tech, where he played both football and other sports. In 2018, he was inducted into the Louisiana Tech Athletics Hall of Fame. Lee originally signed with the Cleveland Browns after being drafted by the Boston Patriots of the Old American Football League, but he was traded to Baltimore before the 1966 season. He played in 2 Super Bowls with the Colts. In Super Bowl III, Baltimore fell to the New York Jets in one of the greatest upsets in football history. But 2 years later, Lee helped the Colts rally past the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl V, punting 4 times in the championship victory. Former teammates and fans remember Lee as one of the early specialists who helped redefine the importance of special teams in professional football. This is Streaming News Network. An Oregon emergency room physician has been sentenced to prison after prosecutors say he struck a pedestrian with his sport utility vehicle, left the scene, and then continued on to work an overnight hospital shift. 59-year-old Dr. Kenneth Kolarski was sentenced Tuesday to 13 months in state prison in connection with the death of 44-year-old Nicolas Hernandez Mendoza. Following his release, Kolarski will serve 3 years of supervised supervision. The case stems from a December 2024 crash in Woodburn, Oregon. Investigators say Hernandez Mendoza activated crosswalk safety lights before attempting to cross Highway 99 East when he was hit by Kolarski's vehicle. Prosecutors say the doctor drove around the victim's body and arrived at Silverton Hospital roughly 20 minutes later, where he worked a full overnight shift. Hernandez Mendoza suffered severe injuries, including a broken neck and pelvis, and died during surgery the following day. During sentencing, the judge sharply criticized Kolarski for abandoning the victim, saying he left a community member fallen and in the dark. Authorities say Kolarski later attempted to conceal evidence by arranging repairs to the damaged vehicle after it was driven out of state. Detectives eventually identified the vehicle through surveillance footage, leading to his arrest in May 2025. Kolarski pleaded guilty in April to attempted failure to perform the duties of a driver to injured persons. His attorneys argued that exhaustion and an undiagnosed medical condition contributed to his actions. Kolarski's medical license has remained inactive since June 2025, and he has reached a $300,000 civil settlement with the victim's family. This is Streaming News Network. A former top aide to California Governor Gavin Newsom has pleaded guilty to multiple federal crimes tied to campaign fraud and false tax filings. Federal prosecutors announced Thursday that 53-year-old Dana Williamson admitted guilt to conspiracy involving bank and wire fraud, filing a false tax return, and making false statements to federal investigators. Williamson previously served as Governor Newsom's chief of staff and also managed a campaign account connected to former California Attorney General Xavier Becerra during an earlier state political campaign. According to the Department of Justice, investigators say Williamson and two co-conspirators stole roughly $225,000 from a dormant political campaign account between 2022 and 2024. Prosecutors allege the money was funneled through businesses and disguised as payments for a so-called no-show job benefiting one conspirator's spouse. Authorities also accused Williamson of falsely claiming more than $1.7 million in business deductions for personal expenses, including luxury vacations, private jet travel, food delivery services, landscaping, and veterinary costs. Federal officials say the false deductions resulted in more than $500,000 in unpaid taxes, which Williamson has agreed to repay under her plea agreement. The three defendants have also agreed to repay $225,000 in restitution connected to the campaign funds. Williamson now faces a possible maximum sentence of 38 years in federal prison. In a statement, Becerra said he was not involved in the scheme and welcomed the outcome, saying the case confirms he did nothing wrong. This is Streaming News Network. A routine airport screening in Philadelphia turned into a costly lesson for one international traveler after federal agents discovered tens of thousands of dollars in undeclared cash hidden in his belongings. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, a 54-year-old man preparing to board a flight from Philadelphia International Airport to Cancun was stopped on April 30 after Nitro, a 3-year-old chocolate Labrador trained to detect currency and contraband, alerted officers during screening. Authorities say the traveler, a naturalized United States citizen originally from Peru, told officers both verbally and in writing that he was carrying only $10,000 in cash. But during a search, officers reportedly uncovered $44,690 stuffed into his pockets, sealed envelopes, and carry-on luggage. Federal law allows travelers to carry large amounts of cash, even internationally, but any amount exceeding $10,000 must be declared to customs officials using federal reporting forms. Because the man allegedly failed to properly disclose the money, officers seized nearly all of it on the spot, returning just $240 for what officials described as humanitarian purposes before allowing him to continue traveling. Customs officials say more than $152 million in unreported or illicit currency was seized nationwide last year as part of ongoing efforts to combat money laundering and financial crimes. Legal experts warn that even when cash is legally obtained, recovering seized money through federal civil forfeiture proceedings can take months and may involve significant legal expenses. Singer and television personality Nick Lachey is opening up about an unexpected reunion with his former wife, Jessica Simpson, during a recent flight to Hawaii. The former couple, who were married from 2002 until their divorce in 2006, reportedly found themselves seated in first class on the same 6.5-hour flight to Hawaii in late March, marking the first time they had seen each other in nearly 20 years. Speaking during an appearance on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, Lachey described the encounter as strangely okay, saying the atmosphere remained cordial and respectful throughout the trip. Lachey was traveling with his wife, television host Vanessa Lachey, and their 3 children. Simpson was reportedly traveling with her mother, Tina Simpson, while her estranged husband, former football player Eric Johnson, and their children were seated elsewhere on the plane. Initial reports suggested Simpson may have changed seats to avoid interaction with her ex-husband, but Lachey downplayed any tension, saying the situation was ultimately uneventful. The former couple famously starred together in the early 2000s reality television series Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica, which chronicled their marriage and became a pop culture phenomenon. This has been a report by Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and shorts. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.